I have to calculate the things, I have to give the result. The given result will be stored in the variable, nothing but a completed property. Then the third thing, we have a lazy stored. When I define a variable and I'm defining some value here, this value maybe I can define here, or this value I may get from a different class. Suppose I have a class A here. So here what I want to do is I can do this. So this value, whatever I'm getting, if it is depend on any other class. So the scenario you should know, you should understand the value what you are retrieving. Maybe it can be depends on external factors. The factor can be anything. If this class got initialized, then only I'll get the value. But what my compiler will do, whenever I'm writing this, whenever I'm writing this line of code, my compiler will assign a value for this, will initialize this variable. So here what happens when the compiler come here, the performance will go to the class A and it will initialize this. But my requirement, when I'm using this C variable, then only I have to initialize the value. Otherwise, I don't want to initialize the value. I don't want to unnecessarily waste the compiler's memory. In that case, what we'll do is the variable, what are the variable I'm having. So I'll declare as a lazy variable. So what my compiler will think, now I may not require this value whenever I call this variable. So here I'm accessing the variable. Here the first time accessing the variable. So it doesn't mean when you first time access this. The variable, what is the variable we are having? The variable initialization happens. Otherwise, there will be no initialization here. If I see other values, here I have a value. For this, immediately wherever you are setting the value, the initialization for x happens. Initialization for x1 happens. Initialization for y happens, y1. But it comes to here. Initialization never happens for this. When this initialization happens means when I'm accessing this, then only the initialization will happen. Otherwise, no initialization for this variable. So this kind of variables we call as a lazy stored variables. And here there is one more thing. Whenever I'm declaring a lazy variable, when we see the variable definition can be happen with let or a var keyword. But lazy variable or the lazy variable I'm taking, lazy should be happen with a var keyword. If I give let here, the lazy, whatever you are defining, lazy cannot be used on the let keyword. Why we cannot use on the let keyword? Let, we know it is a constant. Var is a dynamic. When you define something is a constant, constant always expects some initialization. Let is nothing but a constant. Always, whenever I'm declaring, it will expect some initialization. But my scenario, I don't want to initialize here. I want to initialize when I'm accessing. So I'll go for the var keyword. So these are the simple things we call as a properties. So here the property is not a thing. The variable, what is the, it can be any variable. What are the variable I have declared? The variable, the property can be divided into three things. Stored here, I can have an array, I can have a dictionary, I can have anything. Here also I can have an array, I can have a dictionary. Here also the same thing. The lazy also, I can have an array, I can have a dictionary. So this is about the properties that we have. Any doubts in this? Stored property, completed property, and a lazy stored property. Okay. So the next thing, we have a property observer. What do we mean by property observer? Where I can assign this value. Property observers can only be assigned to can be applied only on the stored properties. So first, what is the property observer? How I can apply a stored property? Suppose I'll have a stored property. My variable name is p1 I'm giving, and here I'll assign some value. So it can be any value. It can be integer, string, array, dictionary. It can be any value. So my variable I'm having here. Okay. In the view did load, what I'm doing? What is the variable I'm having? For this, I'm assigning a new value. So p1 200. If I print it, I'll get a value called 200. When I print this, so what are the value? What are the value? Now I have assigned, I can get only this value. My requirement, I want to go one step back. So what is the previous value that this variable is having? I want to know the current value and I want to know the previous value that I'm having. So for this, what we can do? For this, we have a concept called property observers. This property observers I can assign only to the stored properties, not to the computed, not to the lazy stored. So here the requirement, I have to get the new value. I have to see the old value. To get the new value, the keyword that we have to use will set. To get the old value, the keyword we have to use did set. So where I have to write these keywords? The keyword you have to write to the stored property by placing a block. Place one block here. In this, I'll write will set. I'll write did set. So here I'm writing a stored property, and to the stored property I'm writing a will set and I'm writing a did set here. In the will set, what value I can print? How I'll come to know what is the new value? Here you should not print the variable. So always what is the will set I'm having? Will set have one default parameter called new value. You know what is the parameter? The will set keyword will have a parameter called new value. The did set keyword will have a parameter called old value. Now in the will set, if I want to see the new value, print new value. And I want to see the old value. print old value. So these are the things that you can provide. So here I cannot go and see 2 steps back, 3 steps back. This will provide only 1 step back and whatever the previous value. If I assign 4 5 values, if I assign 5 new values, so I can see only the 5th value and the 4th value. I cannot see the 3rd, 2nd, 1st, whatever I have assigned. Now if I see the new value that I have assigned is 200. The new value it is printing 200, and the old value, the previous value that I have assigned is 100, and I'm printing this 100. So in these cases, in the real time, what happens if I simply print 200 or 100? I don't know the value. That is the reason we are using string interpolation. So it will print with a message, and by placing interpolation, in the interpolation, provide your parameter value. New value is 200, old value is 100. So this you can implement when there is a requirement to find the new values. If I assign PO and I'm assigning a new value called 1000. At this point of step, what happens? 200 and 100. Then I have assigned one more new value. Now the new value is 1000. The old value become 200. So there is no value for 100 here. It will go only one step back and it will find a value for you. So these are the things that we call as a property observers. And can be applied only on the stored properties. Now instead of writing the given parameter, this is a default parameter. I want to write my own parameter. What are the build set? What are the did set keywords are there? Build set, did set, and I want to write my own parameter. Just write your own parameter, and you can declare what is the thing you want to declare here. You can declare anything here. When I'm printing, now I cannot print as a new value. I have declared my own parameter for the new value. So here you print x, and to the old value I have given my own parameter called y. Print y here. So these are the simple things that we'll remember. By default, if I don't write also, I can access a parameter new value and a old value. Clear with the property observer?
Yes.
Okay. Next.
One thing, sir.
Yes.
So
Yes.
whenever we print PO, the new variable, so each time it will call this will set and it set.
Correct. Every time, whenever, not only printing, whenever you are accessing this. So forget about print. Whenever you are accessing the variable.
Okay. It will call the function.
Yes. Whenever you access this PO, it can be a print statement. You can assign a new value or you update a value, whatever the case. If there is a PO, it will come, it will execute all these operations.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
Okay. Next. We have read only and read write for computed properties. Not to any other thing. We have a read only and read and write. This is applied only for the computed properties. Okay. So what is this read only and read and write? I have a completed property called y. So we'll take y1. I have a completed property called y1, and here what is the result I'm taking? I'm assigning to the y1. Now in the program, the y1, what is the variable I'm having? To this y1, I want to assign the new value, something I want to assign. Now what my compiler will do? My compiler will say you cannot assign the property, you cannot assign the value, you cannot do anything with this to y1. Why it is telling means the region it is a get only property. So we say get only or the read only. When I say get only, I can only see the value. What is the value there? I can only see the value. I don't have permission to assign anything to it. If I want to see the value, print y1, you can provide or take one variable and assign y1 value here. So you can access this. The only thing what you can do is you can access this. But if I want to assign some value, I cannot assign the value because by default it is a read only property. So now my requirement, I want to make it read and write. When you want to make it read and write, you have to implement to make it read and write, you have to implement get and the set. How I can implement get and set to the computed property? So go to your computed property. What is the computed property you are having? Go here. First, implement get here. So get always have to return the result. In the get always have to return the result, nothing else you can do calculation, do computation, return the result. Now I will return some result here. If you want to write a get, you can write a get, or you can ignore the get also. By default it is a get only. Still it is throwing error because I have implemented only the get, nothing but to get the value. If I want to assign, implement set. Now set I'm writing for the computer property. Now my error will go away. So it what it will do, it will assign the new value for the y1. How I'll read this new value? The same way from the property observer, what you are doing, do the same thing. I'm printing p1, I'm accessing this, so here nothing will happen. Then I'm doing y1 new string variable. So the y1, I have assigned a new value called new str. The same value will come and will sit here in the set property. So here if you want to do something with this, you want to do some extra calculation, you do whatever you want to do. If I don't write this code, I cannot assign the value to the computed property. So if you want to assign in the real time, you just have to implement the get and set. And this is applicable only for the computed, because for the stored, if I want to assign a value, I am able to assign at any point of time. But for the computed, I am not able to assign. So this is the step that we have to follow. These questions you may get interviews. So what is the property observers? So to which properties I can assign? I can assign only to the stored properties. So what do we mean by read only or read and write? So you may get a different keywords also. Read only or the get only, read and write, get and set, did set, will set. The thing you have to remember what is the keyword and the keyword having which functionality. So will set which functionality, did set what is the functionality that it will follow. So you have to remember all these things. So any doubts in this properties? Stored property, computed, lazy stored. Okay. Now the final thing. Instance property and the type property. So this is not a big thing, the instance property and a type property. Now I'll declare one more class here. My class name I'm giving instance property and a type property. So it is a different class. My own class, my custom class I have defined here. In this I'll have a keyword. I have a keyword called Z and the value I'm assigning here. Now my requirement, I want to access this property. So this is a property. It can be any property. When I say property, it can be any property, can be a stored, computed or a lazy stored. It can be any property. If I want to access this, what I am doing, first thing I have to create an instance for the class. From where I want access, the first thing I have to do this. So this we have already seen to create the instance. Variable class variable name. I want to access this. First I have to refer to this. So my class I have to initialize. This step we calling in nothing but creating an instance, creating a reference, creating a variable for the class. Now instance got created by using this instance. Now this is my instance name. So here what are the variable name I'm taking? It is nothing but a instance name of this class. Now using this instance I can access this property. Now my instance the second line what I'm doing, accessing the property. Using the instance. Z is my property and this I'm accessing by using the instance and accessing the property. So this kind of properties in the real time we say as a instance properties. Wherever you want to access, if you are referring to the instance, then by default it is nothing but a instance property only. So no other meaning. So this is a simple thing about instance property. It can be stored, as we discussed, stored, computed, or a lazy stored. It can be anything. Any doubts in this instance property? Then we have a type property. So what do we mean by type property? Just opposite to this. Here, using instance, I am accessing the variable, become instance property. Without using this instance, I want to access this variable. So how it is possible? Because whatever I am saying, I am using instance only to access. The second thing, without using instance, access a property. Now first I'll define the property, then we'll say variable z1 is equal to some value. I have one more variable. It is now a property. Now when this kind of requirement comes to the variable, just assign the keyword called static. What is the variable I'm having? To this variable, I'm having extra keyword called static. Now it becomes a type property. It is no more instance property or a property. It will become a type property. Now if I want to access this z1, I'm not creating any instance like this. So instance creation happens when the class installation happens to the variable. Here I don't initialize anything using your class name. My class name, and I'm not doing any installation. This way, and do dot. So here you can access a variable z1 directly. So here I'm not using any this instance. I'm not using any installer. I just refer to my class name and accessing the variable. So now this will become a type property. Here you have to remember one thing. When I create an instance, I cannot access the type properties. So now I have created an instance called class instance. If I do escape here, it will give you the option only z. It is not giving the option z1. Why it is not giving me the option z1 means it is a type property and cannot be accessed by using your instance. z1, here I can access only z1, not the z. Means it is an instance property and cannot be assigned, cannot be accessed without creating the instance here. These are the two things that we should remember. What is the instance property and what is the type property? Clear this scenario?
Yes.
Now, whatever the things we have seen, so the properties, it can be stored property, computed, lazy stored, property observer, read only, read and write, instance property, type property. We have seen only for the classes. So the examples I have given only for the class. You practice with the structure. Structure, you don't need to change anything. What are the things you are doing? Instead of putting class, put the structure. No need to change anything, but while practicing, first practice class all the scenarios. In the class, create the stored, computed, lazy stored, and in the class, do the property observers. In the class, do read only. In the class, do instance type properties. Then the second time, do the same thing for the structure. Here, now my class name, I change to the A, to the structure. So I can do all the operations. If I want to change this, so for this instance property, type property, earlier my keyword was a class, so I was using the class. Now I change it to the structure. Still, it will not throw any error. The scenarios, everything is common. There is no difference. The only difference where it will make, if it is a class, a reference type, if it is a structure, value type. So that is the only difference. There is no second difference here.
So one question in real time,
Yes.
where to use class and where to use struct? Because both I found are like same only. Means either or we can use, right? So
So here what happens when I have to use this? Suppose structure is there. Okay. For the structure, I may create two different instances. Suppose the value is coming from server. The server is giving me a new username. The username can be any username. It is a new username. Every place I have to use the same username. But if I take structure here, to the structure, if I assign the new username, then only it will take the new username, or else it will never take whatever the old value, it will have a old value only. But for the class, you may have number of references. One reference I update, in all the references the new username will be stored. But the structure, if I have three references, in all the three references I have to go and I have to update manually, and this will store in the memory. If I have something here, this will store in the memory, this will be not stored in the memory. And the clear difference you can easily understand in the initialization class. We have a class, we have a concept called initialization, and how the memory will be allocated for this, and there you can see how the memory will be allocated for this. There you can easily understand where to use the class and where to use the structure.
okay.
So these are the things that have for the properties. So property means it's not a single thing, it can be any variable. So property, forget about property, it can be any variable, can be array, dictionary, it can be integer, string, anything. And going forward, we see more variables, network variable, database variable, we'll see more variables. And the variable now came as a property, some advanced concept, and the property divided into stored, computed, lazy, and again stored has advanced called property observer, computed has advanced called get and set, lazy stored we don't have any scenarios. Then again this properties we divided as an instance property, nothing but how we are accessing this, and divided as a type property. So how I can access this. So clear with this concept, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now the second thing, I'll stop and I'll share Sukant again.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.